So, welcome to episode 14 of season 3. If you just joined, this is Maria at Maria the Arcane on Instagram. And of course, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Robin at A Tired Witch on Instagram. And actually, later we will be joined by a very special guest, Afro Spiritual, to discuss Christianity within spirituality and their ties to Hoodoo.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello. We'd also like to take a minute to thank all of our Patreon members. We haven't done that in a while, and we would like to. Thanks to you guys, we're able to continue to watch our podcast grow. So thank you very much. And if you are somebody who is interested in joining the Patreon, we have a wide variety of price points with benefits from listening to Patreon exclusive part 2s through a Discord community where we have events and rituals and meditations to one-on-one mentorships and a lot more. So if you are considering joining the Patreon, we have a lot of cool stuff going on. And if you look at our social media, you can see upcoming events that will be held on the Discord.
Yeah.
So yay. Thank you, Patreon
Yeah,
members.
thank you
we love
so
you.
much.
Just like we do every week, we are going to talk about the upcoming lunar phases and how you can use them magically in your practices. So that being said, we have a full moon in Aquarius on August 11th. And full moon in Aquarius, in my personal opinion, is a really good time to do like cord cutting, severing, any kind of ending relationships or energies that are no longer serving you. Even though it's a full moon, I know traditionally we might see those kind of ending things in like the dark moon or a new moon. But the Aquarius in general has a strong need for emotional freedom. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if you're going to be doing any type of spell work that is kind of utilizing this, it's a really good time to kind of free yourself from any kind of negative emotion, fears, jealousy, people, places, etc. Any kind of noun.
Yeah, like letting go actually kept popping up for me too for this Aquarius moon. Like, but for me, it was like also more on the creative aspect because when when we do get creative, like especially for like spell work and stuff like that, we have to let go of like the adult in us and embrace inner child to like have fun, just let go. And that's why for Aquarius full moons, I love getting creative and like dancing as a form of spell work, doing an art, painting something as a form of spell work. And I really think letting go of that adult aspect helps us in that way. And the Aquarius full moon can help you do that.
Sever those ties that are no longer serving you, babies.
Bye. So if you just started listening to us, like we discuss every podcast, we talk about a tarot card. We talk about its meaning, and then we go over our own interpretation of them, just because it helps us form our own opinions. Even for those who have been practicing for a while, they can expand their views on other meanings. So this week, we are talking about the 10 of Wands. On the Rider-Waite-Smith version of this card, you will see a person hauling a bunch of wands towards what looks like a village. Their back is bent and their head is down. The universal keywords to this card are responsibility, hard work, ambition, burden, and struggles. Now, like my own views on this card kind of differ from the universal meanings. When this card pops up in readings, it can tell the person I'm reading for or myself that we need to keep going. The 10s in tarot represent endings or at least idealized views, but for me, this one doesn't. This one actually differs from the other 10s. There is no grand ending for growth or an ending for like our overall life paths besides, well, death. But our whole lives, we can keep going our whole lives, we can keep growing as a person and keep doing new things, finding new adventures. Now, when I say growth, I don't just mean like finances or like work growth, but I'm talking also about like an internal growth, like your personal life path. And, you know, like when we get stuck on growth, avoid trying new things, avoid trying to learn or trying, like, as I said, trying out different things. We kind of like stunt ourselves. We become those like angry elders that, or older people that like everyone wants to avoid. But yes, you know, like growth is a huge burden we have to bear, and we have to, you know, we have to keep going. We have to keep growing. This doesn't mean, however, that we can't stop to take breaks on our life path to kind of, you know, look around and see how far we've come, which is important, very important, because that's where we gain inspiration to keep going. Or like we are even allowed to ask for help. You know, we definitely should. If you feel like life keeps giving you more than what you can chew, you know, find some time to reflect and center yourself. Ask a friend or a trusted confidant for help. You don't have to do it alone. Like community is one of the most important tools that we have to keep us moving forward. But how do you view this card?
I view this card as, you know how I think last episode we talked about the Six of Wands and how like it's that kind of humble pie that you're on the way home. To me, this is the last leg of the journey. You can see in the background the little tiny house, right? And so that is the end of the journey, making it home. And so you're at this point of hard work and possibly even wanting to give up, right? But you're so close. And so it's a reminder to not give up. You're almost there. And yes, like your exhaustion is valid. Yes, your desire to give up is valid, but you've made it this far and the end of the journey is right there. So you need to just keep kind of making those sacrifices, if you will, to get to the finish line. Yeah, I see it massively as that like final conclusion to the Six of Wands we actually talked about last time. So I think that's a good choice on your part, Maria.
I think, yeah, I really like how ours are different. Yeah. And like, I really like how you described it. That's really, I like that. But it's really funny how like, you gotta keep going and you're like, you're almost there. It's just so funny how different readers have different takes on cards.
The point is though, you gotta keep going. Like that is still my point, is you gotta keep going. You can't give up now. You can't quit. You need to push through because you're that close.
So close.
Yeah. So it's the same, but different.
Love that.
So this week, as we said last week, we have a special guest. We are joined by Afro Spiritual to talk to us about things like spirituality and the alignment with Christianity within, you know, different paths and practices. So Afro, if you'd like to introduce yourself for us.
No worries. Hello, my name is Afro Spiritual. Goodness, I'm a Hoodoo practitioner, born and raised, and as of last year, actually almost going on a full year, I am an Abarisha in the Lukumi path of Orisha practice. So
that's so incredible and very interesting. Congratulations on the last year that you've been doing this.
Thank you.
So I have to ask you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Interesting. Oh, you're good. It's been interesting.
I can imagine. Yeah. Well, actually, I can't imagine. That's a lie. But I would say, like, overall, what drew you to this path? Like, what got you started? What got you thinking this way?
Well, I was born into a practicing family and everything, you know, where everyone is either they're Christian, a Hoodoo practitioner, or both at the same time. Thing is, ironically enough, normally is passed down in the women of my family. So I have a lot of female elders that practice. But the men, they know about it. They don't really practice. They may dabble here and there and all that stuff. But I'm like the first male in like a couple of generations to actually, actually get taught and pick it up and do it and everything. Granted, in most practicing families and all that, we do not call it hoodoo. Hoodoo is more of a modern term and everything. We call it roots. We call it spiritual work. We call it doing God's work here on earth. Sometimes it doesn't. Most times it doesn't even have a name. It's just something we do. It's a way of life. It's a way of practice. That's really it. It wasn't until when I started to plug into social media, because my grandmother passed down and everything to me, family superstitions and all that stuff and all that. And also not only that, I was having experiences as a kid. So she took me under her wing and just reared me and cultivated me to be able to know how to handle my ish. It wasn't until I got older, started plugging into social media and all that stuff. And I found out what it was called. And I was like, Grandma, we've been practicing hoodoo this whole entire time. She's like, hoodoo? What's hoodoo? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's hoodoo? And she's like, you talking about roots? You talking about doctrine? Yeah, we do that. And I was like, oh, different names for the same thing. Got it.
That's amazing.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm mixed race Latina, and brujeria is something that comes up a lot in my practice, but that's not what it was called around our house either. And it wasn't until the internet that I was like, oh, this has another name.
This isn't just living.
Yeah.
This isn't just a superstition.
That's how it is. Because the thing is, it's and I tell many Black folk this, especially African Americans who are descendant of enslaved Africans that was brought over via Middle Passage, hoodoo practice, working roots and things like that is so ingrained into Black culture. It is unbelievable. You can't have Black culture without it. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy because a lot of people don't even know that they're being raised with this, growing up with it, practicing it for the most part.
Yeah.
Until someone confronts them, it's like, you do realize you're working roots, right? And they're like, what do you mean? And it's like, how many things do we need to point out for you?
I feel like that's the case with many spiritual practices. Many people don't realize the many spiritual things that they are doing every single day that is, related to things like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the main reason why when it comes to hoodoo practice and all that stuff, I'm just sorry, cell phone in the background going off. Anyway, but no, that's the one thing with hoodoo practice and everything, how some people who are on the outside try to say that, oh, hoodoo doesn't have official initiation, so it's an open practice. And it's no, it's a practice closed by cultural experience and ancestry of the people. If you don't know the culture, if you're not born and raised in the culture, if you don't descend from the ancestors of the culture, then you being able to practice it willy-nilly is going to be a very appropriative thing.
Sure,
and
yeah.
the spirits of those practices can get easily angry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So because obviously we are talking today about the overlap in Christian themes within ATR practices, etc. How would you say, in your own words, does hoodoo involve Christianity?
Hoodoo involves Christianity due to the history of Protestant Christianity being specific. Basically, in layman's term, I'll just say whitewashed expression of Christianity being forced on enslaved Africans as a means to control and oppress and subjugate them. Because we was not cut off per se, but they try to force us to forget our ancestral roots. We had to condense all these different tribes that, were either allies or they were against each other, had to come together, and we condensed and mixed and exchanged and hid our roots and our ways behind the pretenses of the church and the Bible. So basically when, Massa will come out and be like, oh, look at them. They're just, they're praising Jesus. It's like, that's what you think.
It's a lot more complicated.
That's literally what it is. Oh yeah, it's very much so complicated. But that's the unique thing about it, because back in the day, some Hoodoo practitioners, root workers, root doctors, or those who just practice roots, let's just say that for conversation's sake, those who worked roots, some of them did convert and identified as Christian, while others just hid behind a pretense of what it meant to be a Christian.
Sure.
So you had this mixed dichotomy going on between those who saw themselves as Christian and those who didn't. But either way you go, they held on to their roots for the most part.
Well, then I guess my question then as a follow-up to this is, would you say then, at least in the form of Hoodoo that you practice, is the Christian ties a literal tie, like partnership, we'll call it, or is it like in modern times, obviously, something that you are doing because it's still that representation? Does that make sense? Like, do you hold Christian beliefs that also tie with your Hoodoo practice, or would you say that it is just an act, if that makes sense, for your spiritual path? I hope I'm making sense.
To answer that question, no, it makes perfect sense. And for that, I would say yes and no. Yes, there is ties where I do firmly believe, and then there is the no, where it's like, I don't agree with everything of, the type of Christianity that was forced on my ancestors. I don't agree with. That's when I say yes and no. For example, do I believe in God? Yes, 100% in full. 100% in full. I believe firmly in God. Do I believe in the Bible? Literally? No. Now, using it as a spell book, because, that's how my folks hid our ways and works in the Bible. Hell yes, I believe in the Bible as a spell book. Don't expect me to sit here and just, be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be like a Christian and take this word or take this Bible literally from what is being said.
Sure.
Do I believe in Jesus? Yes, I do believe in Jesus, but there's a difference, and there's a cultural difference when it comes to the connotation of Jesus. Because if you float around on TikTok and everything, whenever I'm like joking around and be like, blessed Black Jesus, blessed. I literally do mean Black Jesus, the Jesus that Black people believed in, because in times of struggle here on U.S. soil, who we turn to for our liberation and salvation and give us comfort through struggle, that's the Jesus I know, not the white supremacist, subjugating, I want to oppress you kind of Jesus that was forced onto my folks by colonial folk. So there's a difference with that.
Yeah. So going off of that, which divine beings such as saints do you routinely work with in your practice?
That's the thing. Hoodoo does not involve saints. And it depends. Now, when I say this, it depends. It depends on the family. Some Hoodoo practicing families are Catholic in nature and do involve the saints, while others don't. My family is Baptist.
Okay.
So in Baptist Christianity, you don't pray to saints.
Okay.
You don't. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to spiritual work, sometimes we will go to saints and petition them and work with them for doing our work, but we don't pray to saints regularly on the regular basis, like how some Catholic Hoodoo folk would be. Now, that's where you start getting into the nuance of the different regional variances and unique family expressions when it comes to practicing Hoodoo.
That's really interesting.
That's really
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
I learned something new today.
Because that's the thing about Hoodoo practice. It's different from the other ATRs because it's not standardized.
Right.
Each family, each individual, each region has its expression of what working roots is based off of the local flora and fauna, based off of the local people and everything, based off of who who we touched and all that stuff, who mingled with us and every single thing else in between. But the methodology and how we work and the very base of how we work is the exact same through and through. Can't have hoodoo without ancestors. Can't have hoodoo without, a good relationship, working relationship with God, working relationship.
Yeah.
Emphasis on that. And you can't have hoodoo without the Bible.
Yeah. Have you ran into like any discrimination or ignorance from like any other spiritual paths due to your own?
Yes, very much so. There have been times, especially on social media, where practitioners from other ATRs would come to me and tell me that I'm doing X, Y, and Z wrong. Like, for example, ancestral altars, biggest contention point. People would come to me going like, you should not be keeping your ancestral altar in your bedroom, this, that, and that. You don't do that. And I have to remind them that what goes on and what is standardized and what is appropriate in your ATR practice is going to be different from a different ATR. Hoodoo is a practice based off of survival and necessity. So if my survival, I only have one room, I'm living in an apartment and everything. Let's say I have roommates and all that stuff, and I only have a bedroom. I can't have my altar like somewhere else. Let's say I have a closet that's way too small, and the only thing I'm able to fit in there is like my clothes, and basically use it for storage.
Right.
What am I left with? I'm left with my bedroom. The most I can do is set up a curtain or a partition or something. That way they can be able to have their privacy. But then again, a lot of people like to think that your ancestors is anchored to that altar. It's like your ancestors are spirits. They're not going to be at that altar 24/7.
Yeah.
You, your body, you are the first altar. That altar is a physical representation of what is happening within you and around you.
Yes.
So, and it's one of those where it's like, okay, you're freaking out about, your ancestors seeing you do the devil's tango in front of the altar and all that stuff. It's like, how else do you think, that you got here?
That's so funny.
Great. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, how else do you think your ancestors thought you got here? Shoot, of course they're gonna know that you're gonna be doing that kind of thing and all that stuff.
Like I work
if you
with
can
spirits.
help it, be polite. So,
I work with spirits in my practice, and I live in a tiny home. I'm in a schoolie conversion, and it's something that I've talked about a lot of times too, is that the altar is where spirits sit, but you think they sit there all the time? Like they can get up and leave.
Exactly. And so that's the thing. I mean, I tell people if you can help it, because one person tried to tell me, well, traditionally your ancestral altar. And I looked at her and I was like, if we want to get traditional, especially when it comes to hoodoo practice, since you think you can tell me about hoodoo practice, something I was born and raised in, if you want to get traditional with us, take the altar out your home. Take it out your home. We didn't have the luxury for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true.
Caught and seen, if it was caught and seen, we would have been whipped, hung, something.
Yeah.
So take the altar out your house. Go out into nature and sing your veneration, walk your veneration, dance in praise and prayer with your veneration. Move, acknowledge them in every day. That's traditional when it comes to hoodoo practice, because being able to have altars was like impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then and that's what I tell folks if they want to talk about tradition.
Right. So then I guess I'll ask you, what do you think is your biggest challenge or misconception within the community when you do practice a form of spirituality that has Christian ties?
Oh, goodness. Two things. One, people think I'm Christian. And it's like, you can call me that if you want to. I don't mind, but I'm not. Well, it's actually three things, but that's one of them. The second one, my own people would literally look at these practices, be like, "Oh, that's demonic." I'm like, that's what she was cultivated and conditioned into believing. You don't think we worship God? And I have to tell them, and I use a funny saying for it. I'm like, honey, Black folks, doesn't matter in the diaspora or going back to the motherland, we knew God before white folks knew how to season their food or wash their asses. So what makes you think that, you know what you're talking about, saying our practices, ancestral practices, are demonic?
Yeah. Yeah.
We worship God. We do. We just call it a different name, depending on the practice and the tradition.
Sure.
And we believe that God is like trying to contain God into one religion or into one understanding. It's like trying to contain an ocean in a raindrop. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Why do you think in all these different ATRs, there's so many different expressions and names for all these different spirits that are said to be different expressions of God?
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it's one of those things. The other one is when people is like, oh, so you're a witch. It's like, nope, not a witch.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very much so. Like how people call everything witchcraft. It's like, everything is not witchcraft, my God.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they mean really well when they say things like that. I think they are coming from a good place, but unfortunately their own life has also been muddled with some inexperience and ignorance that they need to learn the right language to kind of navigate these things, if that makes sense.
Yes. And that's the thing I try to do, be like, word it this way, say it this way, like ask it this way, because if it's not me taking the time of my day in order to try to be patient and everything and try to explain the proper way of wording things, if it was some random stranger who doesn't have time for it, your head would get bitten off.
Right. So then I guess that leads me into my next question for you, which is, if somebody was trying to learn about paths like yours from an educational standpoint, to, correct their ignorance, where would you point them? What direction would you point them?
Oh goodness. I mean, there's a couple of books. Couple of books. One, the Bible, of course. And two, there's actually this really good book called Mojo Workin by Katrina Hazzard-Donald. It's not a how-to book on how to practice Hoodoo because I don't give those out, but it is a good book to explain the cultural connotation of Hoodoo practice in Black culture, to understand how the culture and the practice is intertwined. You cannot have it separate, going either way. You just can't.
All right. I'm definitely going to add that to the caption for people listening.
Standpoint to quell ignorance, I will 100% support, because like education for education's sake to quell ignorance, 100% support. Where I draw the line is where one starts to think that they could practice.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So,
and I think that's an important thing that people in general need to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not necessarily accept, but embrace the fact that we should, I believe, and this is just my standpoint, that we should learn about everyone's practice. That way we are doing things to know, hey, am I accidentally appropriating? Because especially when you come from traditional witchcraft books, and I don't mean like trad craft, I mean general traditional witchcraft books, especially ones that came from the 90s and before, there's a lot of appropriation that happens that isn't actually addressed. And I think if you do take the time to learn as much as you can about other practices, faiths, and crafts, that you'll correct your mistakes, if that makes sense, and go, oh, this was actually stolen.
Yeah. Like one author, for example, like Raymond Buckland, avoid. Avoid, because there's a lot of appropriation in there. I used to have one of his books because someone gave it to me when I actually was like, you know what, let me sit down and actually read this. And I did, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I really think that if you take the time to educate yourself, you'll, first of all, expand as a person, right? That's always great. And then simultaneously, you'll make sure you're not accidentally stepping on closed practices. And so it's important.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm saying, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just said for sure.
Okay. I thought it was continuation. But are you open with people about what you practice, or do you feel like you have to hide it? This is one of the questions from our listeners.
It depends on my environment. Mm-hmm. This is where, using your discernment and, feeling out the vibe of who you're around, who you with come into play. Because if they're not okay with it, you usually won't see me wearing my alekes. You see me wearing a cross and all that stuff. And I would just go and literally pose as a Christian.
Huh.
Literally, I would just do my protection work beforehand and just, walk out, especially if I have like the inside scoop beforehand. But if I walk into an environment where it's like I didn't get the inside scoop, I feel it out. I may tuck my lekes up under my clothes and everything. I may take off like a bracelet or something like that and then like keep it in my pocket and everything. And I would just feel them out and just be like, yeah, God is good. Yes. Praise, yes. And because to me it's like it's no different. I mean, I'm still getting my praise on, thank God, and even though I have to hide, it's like it doesn't matter to me, because that's something my grandmother taught me. The trick and the mark of a good root worker and hoodoo practitioner is someone who's able to work up under someone's nose without them even knowing.
Yeah.
So
what's that expression? Hiding in plain sight.
Yeah,
hiding in plain sight. So I could sit there and be talking to someone who, like, let's say they're like a Bible thumping Christian and they're over here they're talking scripture to me. I could be talking scripture to them, but they won't even know that I'm actually chanting spells to them, chanting work.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, I love that. So one of our listeners asks, many of us saw bigotry and abuse in religious upbringings. How do you separate that from your spirituality? And I guess that would kind of bring in a tie of, like, if you have religious trauma in that respect, are you able to separate that? You
can, but this is where I literally tell people, when it comes to, because hoodoo practice is deeply ancestral based, the ancestors is the backbone. Your ancestors will challenge you to get over and work through your Christian and religious trauma. Because when it comes to the way you pray, when it comes to the way you address them, when it comes to the way that you come before them, it's going to be in the context in which they believed. So if they were Christian, you're going to have to approach them under the context of a Christian and, come before them in that sense, going like, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, in Jesus' name I pray, oh ancestors, blah, 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 this and that. And you're going to have to come to them like that. And if you have that trauma and it's severe, I literally do tell people, don't try it until you work through it to a degree. Don't try it. There's some people that would say that, oh, well, I practice hoodoo without the Bible and it works just fine. It's like, then that's not hoodoo. That's just folk magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just folk magic.
So one of the other listener questions asked, why do you think Christianity is dismissed as unspiritual?
Because it became a politically charged religion rather than rather than being about God and being about the spirit, which it used to be. Shoot, I have on my dad's side, they're Christian through and through. They don't really practice roots, even though they know it. They ostracize root workers. But still, they're deeply spiritual Christian, because whenever we talk about it, especially my daddy, he would literally sit there and be like, I follow the teachings of Jesus from the original teachings of how he lived, how he interacted with people. The Bible is the Bible, but I'm not going to follow the Bible. I'm going to follow the word of Jesus and in the example in which he lived. And in my opinion, I'm like, that's spiritually Christian right there.
Yeah.
That's spiritually Christian. You're following the energy and the essence of Jesus. You're not throwing out the Bible, but you know that the Bible have been tampered with.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're not using it in a way to
weaponize it.
Yeah, weaponize it. That's a great word.
Oh, yeah. But that's the thing, in hoodoo practice, Black folks, we weaponize the Bible, but we weaponize it against, we weaponize it against oppression.
I meant politically weaponizing it to oppress people.
Yes. But that's the thing. That's the reason why I say the whitewashed interpretation of Christianity is what was forced on enslaved Africans
Sure.
brought to the United States. And that's the version I don't agree with. I may use it as a weapon, but anything that involves Jesus, I'm on the same page with my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The example in which he lived, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our last and final question is, do you have any divination items that are specific towards your path?
It's a fun bonus question.
Jesus, what can I name?
What is your favorite? How about that?
How about that?
Oh my goodness. My favorite? Oh Lord. This one's interesting. I'll have to say interpreting the signs and messages in nature itself.
Oh, I love
that.
Yeah, because what you see on my social media is you see me using playing cards, which cartomancy, yeah, sure, and everything found its way in Hoodoo and stuff like that. It did, but shoot, I use a mixture. It honestly depends on what is around me in the moment, because I will sit there and be like, all right, playing cards, dominoes, pick up some stones off the ground and consecrate them real quick. Reading the signs in nature, dreams, animal messages, synchronicities and patterns with numbers, and also the words that people say around me, how people are behaving around me, especially in my family. There's many things. Shoot, even casting lots, just taking a ragtag, a bunch of items and everything, and just doing a quick prayer over them and then just throwing them and see where they land. It's like, all right, I see the patterns here. There's so many ways to divine in Hoodoo practice that is not tarot. The only reason why you see Hoodoo practitioners using tarot is because, mainstream spiritual media, that's what they like to see.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, shoot, because if I sat there and just wanted to sit there and be like, I just have a glass of water and a candle and a Bible, this is what we doing. You're like, why aren't you pulling any cards? It's like, I don't need to. I'm literally hearing your spirits right now and reading water.
Yeah.
I'm reading fire.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. I'm channeling right now.
Sure.
And they'd be like, well, how do I know? I'm all like, how do you know? What do you want me to pull? What do you want me to do? Pull this out my butt? What do you mean? How do I know?
Yeah, I think people just get like too comfortable and they don't see like outside the box of, like even what arc, like what community puts them in. So they're like, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's my favorite thing. One of my favorite things to do whenever I have channeling sessions is to go for a walk in nature and just ambiguously channel, basically turning nature into my looking glass, into my water glass, and things that happen around me as I'm going for a walk in nature, doing a channeling session with my clients. Anything that comes up, I'd be like, oop, butterfly here, a white butterfly. So changes are actually afoot for you dealing with X, Y, and Z pertaining to this ancestor, blah, 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 this, that, and that. Oh, look, there's this little black beetle here that's flying around. Oh, that's not a black beetle. That's actually a big bumblebee. All right, community. Yeah, ancestors are saying X, Y, and Z, just doing all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will say thank you very much for sitting with us today and having this conversation. It has been wonderful.
So
we really appreciate it. And we really hope that our listeners get something from this. Before we do go, would you please tell people where they can find you?
Yes, you can actually find me on TikTok at everything's lowercase, Afro_spiritual. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram, which is the same thing as my TikTok handle. And for any scheduled works on my Instagram, there is a link that you can actually click, which is calendly.com/Afro Rootworks to be able to schedule sessions with me and everything. I'm actually in the midst of adding more services. I'm mapping out a Hoodoo 101 curriculum and all
amazing.
that stuff for people. And eventually I'm going to have a shop up and running where people are able to purchase fixed keys, oils, works, and all that stuff.
That's amazing.
Oh, congratulations.
Everything's in the works.
Congratulations. And I wish you the most luck on that, because that's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, shoot, that's one thing I was told in when I found out who I was the child of in Orisha practice. I was told by my guardian angel, my guardian Orisha himself, that you need to expand. And I'm like, okay, I'm working on it, Dad. Working on it, Pa. I got you. Don't worry.
Wishing you all the luck on this new journey of yours.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was a pleasure being here. I mean, I know I can ramble and all that stuff.
So can we, so it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this was all about hearing your side and stuff, and we really enjoyed it. It was really good and really enlightening.
So, Maria, what's stirring your cauldron this week?
Oh, let me tell you. So, kind of like what we talked during the current moon forecast, the creativity of this upcoming Aquarius moon is absolutely amazing. Like, I always really enjoy Aquarius moons for some reason. Like just getting photography ideas and feeling like, obviously, you know, like I love doing photography, love doing videos and stuff like that. But you know, when you have to do them like almost every single day, it can still become like
a burden.
Yeah. But so I really like it when, you know, I feel passionate about what I'm doing and I actually have like amazing ideas. Like when I get ideas, I get super excited and I hyperfixate on them and I have to do them as soon as possible, which has been happening a lot. And I don't hate it because one, it makes sure that I do it and I do love what I'm putting out. And then, and just, I don't know, I just enjoy the whole process of seeing my vision take place for my photos, which, you know, obviously, if you follow me on Instagram or anything else, I use my practice as inspiration for my photos. And also I use my photos in my spell work. So I really like it when this energy comes around and I am able to use it to my full advantage. But yeah, that's what I've been digging. So, Robin, what is not stirring your cauldron right now?
Actually, nothing. I know that I usually am somebody who loves to fucking bitch. Listen, I'm a complainer. We love it. But I don't have anything that is not stirring my cauldron right now.
Love that for you.
I love that for me too. And so instead of saying something I don't like, my book just got like translated into French.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
So cool.
Edition of my book now, and my publisher is sending me a copy, and I'm really excited because I know I have a lot of French followers, and I think that's really exciting. And I think it's a huge example of if you request it enough times, it will be published.
Is it still going to have the same cover and everything, or is it?
I can't speak French, so I'm not going to even try to pronounce it in French, like the cover. But it looks exactly the same.
Okay, because I know sometimes they redo it.
I'm excited to see what it looks like in person in my hand. So yeah, I'm very excited. That's really cool. That.
Are they going to redo the tarot cards as well in French?
Yeah. That's my understanding. So I'm really excited to see what it looks like. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what it looks like. If you've joined us every single week, we talk about creators that we are loving right now. This could be anybody from an artist, a photographer, a blogger, a YouTuber, a book, anything. These are things that we have organically found. They are not advertisements and they never will be.
Nope.
So that being said, Maria, my love, who are you loving right now?
So mine is actually on Kickstarter. It is not out yet and it has the potential of not being out. And that makes my heart very sad because it's very beautiful. But I'm going to try to pronounce this. And if I pronounce it wrong, I apologize. I tried hard to find the pronunciation for this and could not. But it is Auka Tarot Deck by Eve Safa. And as I said, it's on Kickstarter and it is beautiful. Like I don't know. I really like that the cards, they're black and like all the illustrations on them are like in color, like, but certain colors that's like, oh no, it's just so beautiful. And I love the illustration style, and it's very different from what you see. And I don't know, I feel like I haven't really seen, I've seen a few, but I haven't really seen as many indie decks come out lately. And I'm really, really happy that this one has the potential of coming out because it's beautiful.
It is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it is a pip deck, but I think the pips are done like very well, and like they don't look all the same. And I don't know, it's just really stunning, and I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're like, oh wow, I would really like an new indie deck. Like, go check it out. Go put money towards it so I can get my hands on it. But who you been loving?
Well, I am loving a creator called Heidi Moreno. Actually, a friend of mine sent me their account, and they're an artist. And I don't know if they like always do Halloween-y type stuff, but they definitely are right now, and it's so freaking cute. Like, it's so cute. I'm absolutely obsessed. What I was originally sent was like this photo of like a pumpkin man and a devil, cat, and a ghost kind of like doing a little Halloween parade. And it's so cute. Like, I'm just obsessed. Like, absolutely obsessed.
Do they do children's books? Because those are very like children's book. Like,
yeah.
So cute. I mean,
you know what? I think they do.
Okay.
Yeah, they do a book called Working from Home with a cat. It's so cute. It's just like a little picture book, and it has different places that like you might, like your cat might follow you when you're working from home. It just like their work is so adorable, and I'm absolutely obsessed. So yeah, I love it. And I don't think that they've done many books. It doesn't look like it, but I definitely agree with you. I think they should.
Yeah, that sort of style is very pleasing.
Very children's booky. It's so cute.
It's so cute.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you will join us on Friday, I can speak, August 19th for our 15th episode of season 3. You can keep an eye out on our Instagrams, our Twitter, Facebook, or you can just go to our website, coffeeandcauldrons.com, for more information. And it will link you to all these things. So just go there.
Or even better, you can join us on Magical Beginnings Patreon. Our Patreon offers special 25-minute part 2 episodes, a huge library of articles about witchcraft, a Discord community full of very fun events. Like, we have many fun things coming up. And of course, we have like many discussions and really good discussions.
Yeah.
And we even have a tier that offers one-on-one conversations with Robin and myself.
Yes. So please, if you are loving our sexy, sensual, just absolutely babe-tastic voices, take a moment to review us on any streaming service such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We love reading your reviews, and rating us with 5 stars helps us to be seen by others. So thank you for everybody who already has done it and everybody who will do it in the future. We really appreciate you.
Yes, very, very, very much. So again, this is Coffee and Cauldrons
with Robin from At a Tired Witch on Instagram.
And I'm Maria from @Maria_the_Arcane on Instagram. You ready?
All right, ready?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Bye, witches! Was it good?